Gone doesn't always mean forever. In fact, some animals that were thought to be extinct for a long time unexpectedly reappear after many years. Sometimes it's because they've been overlooked, sometimes because researchers never looked in the right places. In this video, I'm taking you on the trail of 7 extraordinary and fascinating species that experts believe might still exist somewhere in the world. Make sure you stay until the very end. The last animal is not simply a legend, but also truly a symbol of hope. Number 7. The Fernandina Giant Tortoise. For more than a century, it was considered a myth. The remarkable Fernandina Giant Tortoise, native to one of the most remote Galapagos Islands, the last sighting dates back to 1906. After that, there was only silence. Volcanic eruptions and introduced predators seem to have completely wiped them out for good. But on several different occasions, scientists discovered mysterious traces without ever spotting a single animal. Hope persisted despite all the doubts and uncertainties. In 2019, the breakthrough. A team of researchers actually found a living female, alone but in good health. Genetic analyses confirmed it. It really was Chelonoidus fantasticus. 2 years later, another individual was even discovered. It's hard to believe how even small remote islands can often continue to remain hidden and unexplored. Are there still other survivors, or are these the last of their species? No one really knows for sure. Number 6. The Caspian Tiger. The Caspian tiger was considered to be one of the largest and most powerful tigers ever found in Iran. There are repeated and persistent reports of large, striped felines, which are even bigger than leopards, but with a different overall morphology and appearance from the Siberian tiger. In 2005, researchers analyzed DNA samples from Caspian tigers and found that they were almost genetically identical to the Siberian tiger. Some biologists, therefore, certainly believe that small populations may in fact have taken refuge along isolated river valleys. In particular, the Tigrovaya Balka Nature Reserve in Tajikistan is considered a potential refuge. Granted, definitive proof is lacking, but if such a large predator had survived in the vast expanses of Asia, it would be a biological sensation. Number 5. The Volcano Rabbit. The Volcano Rabbit, also called the Zacatuche, is one of the rarest rabbits in the world and the smallest in North America. It lives exclusively at high altitudes on the volcanoes around Mexico City at over 3,000 meters above sea level. For a long time, the species was considered functionally extinct. These habitats have been massively destroyed by agriculture and urbanization. Many researchers thought it was no longer able to survive. But surprisingly, new populations were discovered in 2020. Small, but genetically healthy. The animals survived in tiny niches, protected by steep mountain slopes and dense grasslands. This case shows how even animals living close to large cities can survive in the shadows, unnoticed, underestimated, but not extinct. An impressive example of the resilience of an underestimated species. Number 4. The Labrador Duck. The Labrador duck is one of the very few North American bird species to have completely disappeared since colonial times. Officially, it disappeared in the 19th century. The last sighting dates back to 1875. But since then, there have been regular puzzling sightings. Particularly along the coasts of Newfoundland and in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, ornithologists report seeing sea ducks with unusual coloration patterns and a remarkable bill. These distinctive characteristics strongly recall the historical descriptions and accounts of the Labrador duck. While confirmation is still lacking at this time, DNA analyses of related species show that hybrid forms might indeed exist, or that small groups could possibly have survived in isolated bays. Even though there is no formal, definitive proof, the Labrador duck is a good example of how even supposedly well-studied and thoroughly researched regions can still hold surprises. Number 3. The Atlas bear. The Atlas bear was the only bear species in Africa. It lived in the mountainous regions of the Atlas, in Morocco and Algeria, and probably disappeared in the 19th century, killed, hunted, and displaced by human occupation. Yet, there are still regular reports of large animals closely resembling bears in the remote, secluded forests of the Moroccan Rif. Hikers and hunters report seeing tracks that match no other known predator. as well as sightings of a massive dark animal that swiftly disappears into the undergrowth. Zoologists do not entirely rule out the possibility that small forgotten groups may have survived, perhaps even genetically related to Eurasian brown bears. Cave paintings in the region also attest to the historical presence of these animals. Whether the Atlas bear still lives or survives only in the DNA of regional populations, its presence has not completely vanished to this day. Number 2. The giant wild boar of Papua New Guinea. In the remote highlands of Papua New Guinea, locals have told stories for generations about the existence of an animal called the giant pua. It is said to be twice as large as ordinary wild boars, with enormous tusks and thick fur. Some accounts even mention a length of over 2 meters. Western researchers have never actually seen such a living animal in person, but in the year 1994, some bone fragments were discovered that could possibly belong to a previously unknown, extremely large, oversized pig species. Zoologist D. Bulmer described these remains as being evolutionarily plausible, since the island of Papua New Guinea, due to its long-standing geographic isolation from other landmasses, has given rise to a great many unique endemic species. Satellite images show that more than 60% of the country remains virtually unexplored. Dense tropical forests, steep slopes, and culturally isolated regions complicate biological surveys. Whether it is a primitive pig species, a new species, or simply a local exaggeration, the mystery of the giant wild boar remains unsolved. But as is so often the case in Papua, what we don't find doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Number 1. The woolly mammoth. Few extinct animals are as fascinating as the woolly mammoth. These giants of the Ice Age lived in North America, Europe, and Siberia, and are believed to have disappeared about 4,000 years ago. The last known populations were found to have lived on the remote Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean. But reports of mammoths keep coming. In the 19th and 20th centuries, fascinating stories from reindeer hunters and Siberian natives regularly surfaced, claiming to have seen large, hairy elephants deep in the permafrost, far from any civilization. Even modern satellite images of Yakutia show inexplicable movement patterns of large animals. Some scientific theories propose that small populations of mammoths could have survived in marshy and tundra areas, protected by isolation and extreme cold. Mammoth DNA is, remarkably, well preserved. There are serious attempts to bring these animals back through genetics, but perhaps that isn't even necessary. Maybe a true living descendant from the Ice Age is still walking somewhere in the snow, deep in Siberia.